line prop for you.
It's all good.
Thanks, everyone.
Australian
captain Patt Cummins here, ahead of the third test here in Brisbane tomorrow. Questions.
All right, Pat, have you got a team for it?
Yes, Joshy Hazelwood comes back in for Scotty.
How hard is it to tell guys like Scott after how well he bowled that he's not playing?
Yeah, it's tough. It was fantastic in Adelaide, and he's unfortunately spent quite a bit of time on the bench over the last kind of 18 months, and whenever he plays, he's fantastic. So, shame for Scotty, but still a fair bit to play out this series. So I'd be surprised if he doesn't get another crack at some point.
Are you confident Josh can get through? Is he coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. He's had no hiccups. Had a really good bowl yesterday. Had another bowl in Adelaide a couple of days previous. So him and the medical team are super confident.
How much is about nursing the squad through this kind of 5-test series? It's going to be really hot here this next 5 days. It's taxing time, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. You pick your best 11 you think for that week. Obviously, in the background, you're trying to set up as many players to be ready if you need them for the rest of the series. But no, you pick the 11 guys who you think are going to be best for that week. It's going to be hot here. We've all kind of experienced it before, so pretty quiet, short, sharp session today. Go and get in the aircon. But yeah, everyone's pulled up really well after Adelaide.
I know you don't care too much about the opposition too much, but do you expect Jasprit to be there? And as an opposition, you want to face the best, don't you? I know your top order probably, he's the best leading wicket taker in this team in the series at the moment, but that they've all been saying they embrace that challenge, don't they? And you expect them to line up tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I've got no idea. I'd imagine so, but we'll see. Whoever plays, obviously, we'll be ready for. The guys always, relish, who they come up against, what the conditions are. I remember going to India and seeing a spinning wicket, and for someone like Smithy, he loves that, that challenge of, when it gets really difficult to bat on. So the batting group's the same. Those conversations, they're always up for it and excited for whatever gets thrown at them.
Can you just talk through, I suppose, with Josh, like it's obviously a good result to get him back from this with a break of only one test match, but like even the conversations you were having during Perth Test where he was starting to feel sore and you were thinking, how do I best manage through this?
Yeah, it was later on in that second innings, and fair to say, probably thought the game was starting to slip away. We still needed probably 6 or 7 wickets, and we're about 400 behind. So, we've seen it a few times where Josh has kind of pushed through to get through a test match, and a little bit of soreness turns into a month or two injury. So, we kind of made the call then that probably wasn't worth the risk of keeping him bowling. So I think he bowled an extra 2 overs leading to a tea break, and he said it felt okay, and I just kind of thought from there, that's enough.
How have you had a good look at the wicket? What are you expecting from each year?
Good question. I actually haven't. I was meaning to, and I got stuck talking to George and Ron for half an hour. I looked at it yesterday. It looked like a good wicket, like it has been the last few years. Probably a bit of sun baking on it the last couple of days. I don't think it's as green and leafy as it was, say, against South Africa. So we'll wait and see tomorrow.
Fact, nobody calls this the Gabba anymore and all of that, so that's come and gone. Like, are you like a captain who likes the concept of having a fortress and then defending it, or you don't care about that and it's just a venue that you want to win a test match in?
Yeah, it's just a venue, really. We play in dozens and dozens of venues around the world each year, so I think it's always good coming back to a place that's familiar, and as a player you can look back and look at times where you might have scored runs or bowled well on. I think that really helps, but the scoreboard starts at 0-0, so the venue isn't the be-all end-all.
But speaking of being familiar in this venue, how different is the December test here compared to the 2 January tests that you guys have lost here?
I think it's always a bit more humid, a little bit hotter in January, maybe a bit more rain about. I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I'm terrible with memories, and they all kind of merge into one. So Joshy Hazelwood always has some theories that January's hotter and sweatier. But honestly, I can't remember being too different.
crash.
Pat, you went very hard on the last day of the test to short pitch bowling against the Indians. Do you think that'll be a key tactic again?
Yeah, potentially. It worked out in the Adelaide Test, so yeah, it's always in the kind of back of your mind as a bit of a plan B, or if it's looking really uncomfortable and likely to take wickets, maybe it becomes a plan A to some of the batters. So it worked in Adelaide, so I'm sure we'll give it a shot at some point this test.
Did you sense their discomfort, Josh? Did you sense their discomfort against it?
For those, for the tailenders, looked like there was a wicket was very likely. So, yeah.
You've had a couple of very different performances in those first two tests. After a chance of analysing that, what do you put it down to?
I think a couple of key moments can really compound and make the game look, further apart than perhaps they were. We spoke about that after the Perth Test match. In another world, if you get through that first evening, maybe the sun's out, we've got a few more wickets, and maybe you get a first innings lead, and the game looks a little bit different. And a bit the same in Adelaide. The way Nathan and Marnus got through that first evening, and we kind of Trav and a few of the other guys cashed in the next day. That really compounds the win. So I think it's those key moments, getting through them, finding a way, and kind of really setting up the game. But yeah, I think the margins are never as big as perhaps they look sometimes.
Over that, right?
Yeah, Paddy, I imagine the feedback was going wrong. Probably you're doing everything right. Just keep doing it. Like how, for someone who's been on the fringe for so long, like saying things that are kind of keep you motivated, get happy, like if you become flattened by that kind of, you've been dropped, you haven't done anything right.
Of course you say all those things because it's the truth. He's amazing every time he plays. We absolutely love him around the group. He's one of all our favourites. So it's just about preparing for MCG because there's a good chance we might need you. History suggests there's always kind of some form of natural attrition throughout a test series. So the good thing, he's probably played a test earlier in the series than he maybe thought coming to the series. He showed that his standard's still super high. He knows he can take wickets against these guys, so it's just about trying to set him up for those last two test matches.
We all love to see that. Can you just explain the reasoning of taking Mitch and Josh away to bowl somewhere else? Is it sort of linked to the nets, or what was behind that?
Yeah, just purely run-ups. So we've done it most years. It's only about 25 metres at the back of the Gabba, whereas obviously we can get full run-ups up at AB. So that was it. They were going to bowl yesterday morning. It was still damp, so the nets got pushed back to the afternoon. Hence why it kind of clashed with the main training session. But yeah, that was it. There's nothing more to it than that.
And you were talking about intimidating bowling before. Smithy, you got him with a beauty in there. Surely.
Oh, in the nets, yeah.
Surely he's all right. You're backing him to perform. I know his record's huge. And does it feel like it's about to come for him?
Yeah, I mean it does. If you look at his record, stats would suggest it's not far around the corner. And I think in particular this year he's looking fantastic in the nets. Just looking really sharp, looking like he's got plenty of time, doing all the right things like he always does. So, yeah, he got caught down the leg side last game. I don't think he can look into that too much. So I'm sure a big score's just around the corner. But he's been fantastic the last couple of games. Obviously a big leader around the group, and he's been awesome. So really, hoping he gets a few this week.
Sam?
You're asked about the Australia's dominance of Gabba over the years before. Like, what's it like as a player in the modern game when you do play so many venues, like you said? Like, is there a sense of pride in trying to maintain something like that for Australian cricket, or is it just another thing?
I think there's definitely pride in winning in Australia. These are our home conditions. These are the conditions we grew up playing with. So there's definitely that. You'll want to. I think the hardest thing in cricket nowadays is winning Test series away from home. So to make that World Test Championship, you kind of got to win everything at home and try and pick up some wins overseas where you can. So we definitely go into every home series here expecting to win. That's what we grew up watching. That's kind of the standards we set ourselves, and playing in a familiar venue, it falls right into that.
We'll take a couple here, a couple over there, and we'll wrap it up. So,
Pat, Mitch Marsh yesterday suggested that it's better to go after shots than just wait for that good delivery and the inevitable. Travis said in Adelaide played us a similar kind of knock. Given the wicket is lush green and it's going to be a bit spicy, do you think that's the way the batters can actually score more runs and contribute more for the teams rather than just hang around out there?
I think everyone goes about it a little bit differently. Trav and Mitch are natural shot makers. That's the way they go about it. For a few of the other guys, they've perhaps skinned the cat a little bit differently, particularly here at the Gabba. It can change from day 1 to day 2 or 3. So everyone's got their own method. I think the most important thing is you play to your strengths, and Trav did that last week.
In the middle here, so yeah.
Pat, how much do you feel that there is additional pressure on the captains to lead from the front in a high-profile series like India, Australia? And how did you cope up with the criticism which came after the Perth loss? Rohit Sharma, your counterpart, is going through the same. What happened in Adelaide? Can you just speak on that?
Look, I think there's always pressure when you're playing Test cricket, and when you're captain, and a lot of that falls on you probably more than a lot of the other players. So it's nothing new. Of course, you just want to go out there and do well. In terms of criticism, I think after Perth we didn't play our best. I didn't have the greatest game. Our team didn't have the greatest game. So, in some ways, any criticism, a lot of criticism is valid, and some of it that isn't, it's not valid, so you can dismiss some of it.
Home test for Uzi Khawaja, but he's missed out a little bit recently. What do you make of where his game is at? In particular, you said this week that he'd like to get through to next year's Ashes. What do you make of where Uzi's going?
Yeah, look, I think similar to Smithy in some ways. He's looking fantastic in the nets. I thought, last week in Adelaide he looked really sharp. Again, he did a lot of that hard work on that first night. It was tricky, brand new ball under lights, fresh bowlers. So, obviously, like most of the guys, he'd be wanting to score a few more runs, but I think he's looking really good. Had a good lead into this series, and he loves batting at the Gabba. He knows it really well. Hopefully score some runs.
Just a bigger picture question. The last couple of tests, obviously, haven't gone 5 days. It feels like very few do in Australia now. Is it something you're almost prepared for in some ways? It's rare that there's going to be the workload of 5 days of test cricket. And does it also bring about the debate again whether the test should maybe just be scheduled for 4 days? And I wonder what you stand on that.
I think you always go into a test imagining it's 5 days. It is funny. Definitely the wickets have been a bit juicier the last few years. They've been played at a faster pace. So I think you always go into a test match thinking it's going to go 5 days, but the most important thing is if it does speed up, just making sure you're not, you can adapt quickly. In terms of length of game, don't know, it doesn't really bother me. I always quite like 5 days.
If it was allowed more, I know you guys talk a lot about the one for 3 test series rather than 2, but did allow for 3 test series rather than 2, would that be a worthwhile trade-off, do you think, going to 4 days?
Honestly, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I think it's a pretty good format at the moment.
Last one. Just one about the, there's obviously coming to the series, it was like, everyone's in the team, everyone in the team, but one is over 30, aging team kind of line. Is it a bit more nuanced to that though, in that, you've got guys like yourself, Trav, Marnus, who are basically just 30 and have a lot longer to go than someone who's 35, 30, 37. Do you think that the age profile of the team will mean that it'll sort of transition smoothly rather than everyone going at once?
Look, I hope so. I think players play for longer than they probably did, 15, 20 years ago as well. Fast bowlers can get into the mid to high 30s perhaps. Starkey's bowler as fast as he ever has. He's mid 30s. We're big on picking who we think the best 11 players are. And, you've got Aussie A, you've got state systems to try and make sure the next crop are coming through and they're going to be really well prepared. Even, white ball cricket gives some opportunities to some younger guys who, maybe are on the fringe of the test side as well. I don't think we'll get mass change overnight. I think it will be, spread out over a couple of years. And, nowadays there aren't really any series where you can afford to kind of just blood players for the sake of it.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.